Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with a major update on the merger between Skydance and Paramount Global. After a year of waiting and going through the hurdles of regulatory approval, the two companies finally have the go-ahead from the Federal Communications Commission to form one major company. So I wanted to go through how that deal went down and what it might mean for the future of the new company. Yesterday, the Federal Communications Commission approved the transfer of Paramount's existing broadcast licenses, which govern CBS and the company's local stations, to its new owners at Skydance, the last hurdle remaining in the Paramount-Skydance merger. The FCC's role in approving the merger was to ensure that new Paramount's broadcast stations would continue to act in the public trust, which is one function of the FCC's oversight responsibilities. Skydance was able to convince the FCC that they would be operating in that public trust. Now, I should say up front that while this video isn't about politics, a lot of how this merger was approved involves political issues. So while I'll be covering the facts of the merger approval, the approval itself has become intertwined with politics to a degree that is unusual for a standard broadcast licensing transfer. So fair warning. In a statement announcing the approval of the broadcast license transfers, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr put a spotlight on changes Skydance has pledged to make within the new merged company, changes that align with many of the Trump administration's priorities. Carr said, quote, "Americans no longer trust the legacy national news media to report fully, accurately, and fairly. It's time for a change. That is why I welcome Skydance's commitment to make significant changes at the once storied CBS broadcast network. In particular, Skydance has made written commitments to ensure that the new company's programming embodies a diversity of viewpoints from across the political and ideological spectrum. Skydance will also adopt measures that can root out the bias that has undermined trust in the national news media. These commitments, if implemented, would enable CBS to operate in the public interest and focus on fair, unbiased, and fact-based coverage. Doing so would begin the process of earning back Americans' trust. Today's decision also marks another step forward in the FCC's efforts to eliminate invidious forms of DEI discrimination. And Skydance's commitment to enhancing local news and reporting coverage valued by the public will also inure to the benefit of the American people. Now, there's been a lot of discussion and speculation up to this point about what Skydance and Paramount might have agreed to in order to push this merger through, but let's focus on what we know Skydance committed to in order to get this deal done and how that process played out. Last Tuesday, Skydance CEO David Ellison met with FCC Chairman Brendan Carr to lay out his vision for the new company and how it would continue to work in the public interest. Earlier this week, in two letters dated July 22nd, 1 week after the meeting, and 2 days before the deal was approved, Skydance made two major commitments to the FCC. The first concerned the company's CBS News division, which was sued by the Trump administration over a report that ran on the news program 60 Minutes. That lawsuit was settled by Paramount earlier this month for a reported $16 million. President Trump has claimed that in addition to the $16 million settlement, he reached a deal with Skydance to receive $20 million worth of, quote, advertising, public service announcements, or similar programming. Current leadership at Paramount claims that they have, quote, no knowledge of any promises or commitments made to President Trump other than those set forth in the settlement proposed by the mediator and accepted by the parties. Skydance has not offered an official comment, though unnamed sources have claimed to the media that this deal does not exist. In Skydance's first letter to the FCC following Ellison's meeting with Brendan Carr, their general counsel wrote, quote, "As Skydance has made clear in the record, we recognize the importance of unbiased journalism and are fully committed to presenting a diverse array of viewpoints on television. We further reaffirm that after consummation of the proposed transaction, new Paramount's new management will ensure that the company's array of news and entertainment programming embodies a diversity of viewpoints across the political and ideological spectrum, consistent with the varying perspectives of the viewing audience. Skydance recognizes that as a broadcast licensee, it will be charged with operating in the public interest, and the company intends to undertake a comprehensive review of CBS and to make any necessary changes to ensure compliance with that standard. In all respects, Skydance will ensure that CBS's reporting is fair, unbiased, and fact-based. To promote transparency and increased accountability, Skydance will also commit for a period of at least 2 years to have in place an ombudsman who reports to the president of New Paramount, who will receive and evaluate any complaints of bias or other concerns involving CBS. New Paramount's executive leadership will carefully consider any such complaints in overseeing CBS's news programming. In evaluating Comcast's acquisition of NBC Universal, the commission found such a mechanism effective in preventing editorial bias in the operation of the NBC broadcast network. While I'm going to focus on the news aspect of this statement, it's worth noting that the company has committed to a diversity of viewpoint in both news and entertainment programming, which may ramp up questions around the cancellation of Stephen Colbert, though other programming like The Daily Show and, as we're going to discuss later, South Park has thus far remained unaffected. So when it comes to CBS News, what is an ombudsman? Well, his or her role can vary depending on the situation, but they are intended to be impartial, independent mediators who can help resolve disputes that arise within a company. Having an ombudsman is not rare, and many organizations consider having one essential in order for that organization to help ensure that they are acting ethically in situations where two or more involved parties may have conflicts of interest. NBC Universal did indeed commit to the FCC that they would retain an ombudsman in 2011 during the Comcast merger. However, the potential editorial bias in that case was not politically based, but to ensure that NBC News coverage was free from any corporate influence from its minority shareholder owners at General Electric. Basically, to make sure that any news story that might conflict with GE's financial interests was reported accurately and fairly, free from GE executive interference. In this case, according to Skydance's letter, it appears that the ombudsman will be in place to hear and consider any complaints of ideological bias on CBS's part, including, one would assume, from the Trump administration, and to bring those complaints to the head of the company, likely David Ellison and or other executives, who will then consider those complaints as they manage the CBS News division. The other letter that Skydance wrote to the FCC concerned the company's future plans for its diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives. In that second letter, Skydance's general counsel said, quote, "I write to confirm the elimination of diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI initiatives that were in place at Paramount and to confirm our commitments moving forward. Skydance, for its part, does not have DEI programs in place today and will not establish such initiatives. The company is committed to ensuring that its storytelling reflects the many audiences and communities it serves in a manner that complies with non-discrimination requirements and other applicable laws. Although Paramount must have a highly talented, dedicated, and creative workforce that understands the perspectives and experiences of its varied audiences, the administration's recent executive orders, the Supreme Court's decision in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, and federal mandates impact the company's approach to those objectives. Included in the changes which Paramount has already made or will make after the merger are the rollback of goals for the number of employees in the company based on race, ethnicity, sex, or gender, as well as eliminating demographically based leadership and development programs, all minimum spend requirements for diverse vendors and suppliers, the elimination of the Office of Global Inclusion, as well as any role at the company focused on DEI, and eliminating all references to DEI in both public-facing and internal messaging. But these weren't the only two factors that the FCC considered in approving the merger. Other aspects of Skydance's takeover that the FCC cited as appealing included a commitment to support CBS's remaining local broadcast stations, Skydance's plan to immediately infuse $1.5 billion of cash into the new company, which would benefit all divisions, including over-the-air broadcast, and Ellison's plans to upgrade the technology behind Paramount's streaming service and other divisions, which the FCC believes would benefit the company as a whole, including, again, CBS broadcast stations. The vote of the FCC commissioners was 2-1 in favor. Anna M. Gomez, the only current Democrat serving as an FCC commissioner, released her own statement about her no vote, saying, quote, "The Paramount payout and this reckless approval have emboldened those who believe the government can and should abuse its power to extract financial and ideological concessions, demand favored treatment, and secure positive media coverage. It is a dark chapter in a long and growing record of abuse that threatens press freedom in this country. But such violations endure only when institutions choose capitulation over courage. It is time for companies, journalists, and citizens alike to stand up and speak out because unchecked and unquestioned power has no rightful place in America. Ironically, one of Donald Trump's most vocal recent critics is also the show that Paramount just paid over $1 billion to keep, South Park. Earlier this week, South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone signed a 5-year deal worth a reported $1.5 billion to give Paramount the exclusive global streaming rights to the show and its extensive library. In addition, Parker and Stone have agreed to produce 5 more seasons of South Park with 10 episodes per season. It will be the first time since 2019 that South Park has produced a 10-episode season after fracturing its output across Paramount Plus and HBO Max, an arrangement that is part of an ongoing lawsuit from Warner Brothers Discovery. But any worries that Parker and Stone may self-censor themselves given Paramount's then pending deal with Skydance quickly vanished when, hours after the show's new deal was announced, South Park's season 27 premiere on Wednesday night targeted both President Trump and Paramount, including depicting Trump in bed with Satan and culminating in an AI-generated public service announcement showing Trump stumbling naked through the desert. It seemed to me like a massive middle finger to everyone involved in the merger, which, if you've ever watched South Park, shouldn't come as a huge surprise. Should Parker and Stone continue to target their parent company and the president without consequence, it could serve as an obvious counterpoint to the allegation that Stephen Colbert was targeted for cancellation for purely political reasons. At Comic-Con yesterday, Parker and Stone said that they don't know what their future plans for this season are, and that scenes that appeared in the season 27 trailer were only made because the network asked for a trailer and aren't actually part of the show's plans. Never changed, you two. In response to Wednesday's episode, a White House spokesperson said, quote, "This show hasn't been relevant for over 20 years and is hanging on by a thread with uninspired ideas in a desperate attempt for attention. President Trump has delivered on more promises in just 6 months than any other president in our country's history, and no fourth-rate show can derail President Trump's hot streak." So what happens next? Well, with the final regulatory hurdle out of the way, Skydance and Paramount are looking to officially complete their merger in the coming weeks, including buying out existing shareholder stock. While there are still some shareholder lawsuits pending, they won't be able to hold up the completion of this deal. Some Democratic officials have pledged to investigate and possibly sue the new company, believing that their concessions are tantamount to bribery, but it's unclear if that will actually happen. And like the other lawsuits, any investigation or legal action would also be unable to stop this deal from closing. Once Skydance is officially in control, David Ellison will take over as CEO, and Jeff Shell, who was fired from NBC Universal in 2023 amid allegations of sexual harassment, will take over as president of Paramount. Ellison has pledged to make the new company more of a hybrid between a media company and a technology company, and given his father Larry Ellison's role at Oracle, it's likely that he will have ample access to the resources to do so. These technological improvements include an upgraded algorithm for Paramount Plus in order to keep users on the service longer, more information to help advertisers reach their target audiences, and further integration of AI into the company's workflow. While Jon Stewart's future at The Daily Show has been the subject of a lot of speculation, there are also questions about the entirety of Paramount's linear television networks, including Comedy Central and MTV. It's very possible that the new Paramount may decide to spin them off into their own entities, as NBC Universal and Warner Brothers Discovery are doing, and there may also be negotiations ahead with the NFL, which has a change of control clause in its TV contract with CBS. The league has 2 years to opt out of their deal if they wish, but the more likely scenario is that they'll choose to renegotiate terms and stay with the network. Amid all of this controversy, it's easy to forget that of the buyer options for Paramount, David Ellison and Skydance were considered by many, including me, to be the least bad possibility. The Paramount movie studio wasn't merged with another studio and/or eliminated entirely, nor was Paramount Global sold to private equity to be stripped for parts. That's probably little comfort to the nearly 20% of the company's U.S. employees who have been laid off already, with more downsizing likely on the way, as Skydance claims to have identified nearly $2 billion in cost savings for the new company. The controversies and extended regulatory process have overshadowed some of the optimism that Skydance's takeover once inspired. But now that the deal is nearly done, the future of this new Paramount will start shifting from theory to reality. What that means for the company's news and entertainment divisions and what role the current presidential administration will or won't play in those divisions remains to be seen. So those are the details behind the story, but I also have some thoughts of my own. However, I understand that many of you come here as an escape from politics in general, so I'm going to end this video right here. If you want to hear my personal feelings about this whole situation, I've put them in an unlisted video, sort of an appendix to this video, which you can click right now in the annotation up in the corner of the screen or by hitting the link in the description below. Audio listeners, you can just stay tuned right where you are or just go ahead and skip over to Smartless. I understand. But if this is where you hop off, thank you for watching this video about the now almost final Paramount Skydance merger. And thanks as always for tuning in here to the channel. Be sure to subscribe for more movie news, reviews, box office, entertainment info, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.